On the Clean Power Plan, former Obama administration Assistant Secretary Charles McConnell said at best it will reduce global temperature by only 1/100th of a degree Celsius. At the same time, it's going to increase the cost of electricity. That's going to hurt the lowest income Americans the most. How do you justify such an expensive, burdensome, onerous rule that's really not going to do much good? And isn't this all pain and no gain?
No, sir, I don't agree with you. If you look at the RIA we did, the regulatory impact analysis, you would see it's enormously beneficial. The value of this
Do you
rule,
consider 1/100th of a degree to be enormously beneficial?
The value of this rule is not measured in that way. It is measured in showing strong domestic action, which can actually trigger global action to address what is necessary.
Do you disagree with my 1/100th of a degree figure? Do you disagree with the 1/100th of a degree?
I'm not disagreeing that this action in and of itself will not make all the difference we need to address climate action. But what I'm saying is if we don't take action domestically, we will never get started.
But if you're looking at the results can't justify the cost and the burden that you're imposing on the American people.
Actually, this is a cost-beneficial rule.
We're obviously going to disagree on that as well.
Your budget proposal includes $235 million for the EPA efforts to cut carbon pollution out of the greenhouse gases, including the Clean Power Plan. Given the Supreme Court's issue to stay in the final rule for the Clean Power Plan, I want to ask about the costs and benefits about this final rule. You stated in the EPA's regulatory analysis of the Clean Power Plan that the purpose of the rule is to cut CO2 emissions from the contribution to climate change, quoting. The EPA website defines climate change to include major changes in temperature. I'm trained in engineering, chemical engineering, looking at numbers. Can you tell me what the impact of global warming would be from the Clean Power Plan?
Actually, the Supreme Court asked us a very similar question and agreed with us that while we can't define the exact reductions that would be achieved from any one action in climate, there is absolutely no reason to do that because we know it will take a lot of efforts to actually make those reductions. And the President's move. You know what? You would do that with every single source of greenhouse gases. And we had that argument at the Supreme Court and we won decisively, which was that we don't need to prove that every single source is going to stop greenhouse gas emissions. But if the attitude is that that's the challenge for us, we will never stop global warming. We will never stop climate change. And so that has just never been the case for EPA. We don't have to prove that any reduction will actually make a precipitous difference in and of itself, but we have to admit that there's a lot of efforts need to be done to get at this issue.
It shows that China is going to increase its production or use of coal by 460 gigawatts of power, and India another 360 gigawatts of power. I don't know what's going to take. The world's not following our leadership. So I'm curious that if we, as 2 or 3 years ago, I raised the same question to you, you're going to get back to me, and I never heard back from you again. And that was that according to the IPCC with the United Nations said that if we terminated all coal-fired power plants in America, so we didn't burn 1 ton of coal in America, the total reduction to CO2 in the globe would only be 0.2%. Do you think that's a measurable impact on the climate of the world? Especially given that the other nations aren't going to follow? So if we terminate 0.2, but yet the other nations of China and India are going to way more than make up for that loss, it's worth it to our economy to put all our people and our coal companies out of work for something that's not measurable? I don't understand. If it doesn't have an impact on climate change around the world, why are we subjecting our hardworking taxpayers and men and women in the coal fields to something that has no benefit?
Well, I think, sir, we see it as having had enormous benefit in showing sort of domestic leadership as well as garnering support around the country for the agreement we reached in Paris. what they want to invest in. And the great thing about this proposal is it really is an investment opportunity. This is not about pollution control. It's about increased efficiency at our plants, no matter where you want to invest. It's about investments in renewables and clean energy. This is an investment strategy that will really not just reduce carbon pollution, but will position the United States to continue to grow economically in every state. A modern economy needs a modern energy system. Our rule embraces that spirit. It's not about end-of-pipe controls. It's about driving investments in renewables and efficiency. It's about advancing our ongoing clean energy revolution, which unleashes innovation and creates jobs. That's what climate leadership looks like. That's what progress looks like. That's what investment, innovation, and reinventing a global economy looks like. It is an effort to make people understand that this is an issue from many perspectives, and the opportunity doesn't necessarily have to be by putting, environmental pollution controls that people worry will cost money. It is way different than that. It is a fundamental way of re-looking at where the United States is heading and how to maintain our competitive edge by moving towards a low-carbon future, which everybody knows we need to do. We should be there first. That's what this is all about.